All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Delila will be joining us in a bit. She's coming from an appointment and is joining us as soon as she can. So I'll go ahead and get started with our usual intro, and then Jenny, we have a very special guest with us, Jenny Viveros. We're so excited to get to learn more about you today, especially on some topics that I know will incite some feelings on my behalf. So I do have a nice beer with me. Thank you. Thank you, Silvia, Jessica, and Sulema for joining today's session. So let's go ahead and get started. And then Jenny, I will be passing it over to you. And if you can go ahead and give us an overview of just more about yourself and all of the amazing things that you do.
Yes.
All right. So welcome to Cafecito con. We are a show where we invite guests to inform us, enlighten us, and inspire us by sharing about themselves and the spaces they step into and make their own. We are a team of 3 intergenerational women, hoping to bring you conversations about women, with women, and for women. We hope to build a community without borders so that we can express, inspire, inform, and lead to true self-growth. We call our talks Cafecito con, to have an open forum for a variety of conversations and content. We want to share a cup of love and create spaces for womanhood to chat, to love, to grow. We want to reclaim our spaces of conversation about each other. We're not gossiping or chismeando. We are compartiendo, sharing our stories. More importantly, we're giving our best to each other. We'll talk about life, business, hopes, faith, and dreams. At least that's our dream. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jenny. We're very excited to have you. As you may know, there are 4 different topics we like to discuss. And the first of which is we want to learn more about you, Jenny, and all of the amazing things that you do. So can you go ahead and start elaborating on that, please?
Yes. So thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, and thank you for this space. I just feel like it's very needed, especially during these times. So yes, my name is Jenny Viveros. Full name Jennifer, but I never go by Jennifer. It's Jenny. And so who am I? I feel like it's a very loaded question because I feel like I carry many hats throughout my experiences and my lived experiences. So I am a social worker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I say I'm a social worker by day and then a dancer by night.
Ooh. If
So,
that doesn't
Dancer.
sound fun.
Woo. I like that.
And yeah, so I do in my spare time, not in my spare time, but that like my passion is dancing. I've been dancing since I was 8 years old. So I started dancing folklorico. And I feel like folklorico was a way to be able to connect to my culture, to be able to connect in community. And then from there, I continued to continue taking different types of dance, and I currently teach Latin burlesque.
Latin burlesque. Is there a way you could elaborate on that?
Yes, so Latin burlesque is it's a form of it's a dance empowerment, and I feel it's a way of reconnecting with our sexualidad and our sensualidad. Many of the times, I feel as women, as working women or professional women that may be in professional settings, we we work in a very male dominated kind of energy field, um, and a lot of the times our femininity, sometimes we put that on the side because we have to be leaders, we have to be at the forefront, and I feel a lot of the times we disconnect from that creativity and that passion that comes from within. And so that's where Latin burlesque comes in, where we're tapping into our bodies in a very, very sacred way, very empowering way as well. And so I teach a chair dance, and we work within lingerie as well.
Nice.
You know, what you just mentioned about how women, sometimes we feel we need to step away from that femininity because we need to be leaders. This last weekend, I just had a conversation with a dear friend of mine, she's a badass in the finance world. And when we mentioned that we were going to have you as a guest, she let us know, that is something she's not completely comfortable with. She's not completely comfortable with showing her femininity when it comes to her dress because she fears of being seen as less of a leader. She wants to be seen for what she can do. So there is that perception that you can't look too feminine, or you can't that it'll distract from who you are, the other skills. And so I'm super interested in what I think, well, with what you just mentioned right now, you don't need to do that necessarily. How can you still tap into your femininity and be that badass, be that powerful leader?
I feel like a lot of the times, I look at it in a very broad way, or a little bit in the length of like, we live in a world where patriarchy is very present, and we have been taught culturally to not be seen in that way, because that takes energy from like what we're producing. And so I feel like it's very important to kind of reclaim that sensualidad, and then I go into like our physical space, like our womb. Our womb carries so much like creativity, so much power. And a lot of the times that power has been taken away from us because that's a way of being controlled, that they control us. And they nos opaca nuestra luz. Like that's what I feel like a lot of the times, like our luz gets dimmed. And imagine if we like, and then I go into like a lot of the times, we are told that we need to look a certain way, we have to dress a certain way, we have to be a certain weight, and then all these insecurities that we were not born with, but society has brought to the forefront. That's a money making tool. So if instead
let me say, I'm so proud of you. I cannot be more proud of you. And sorry for joining late, but I was at the doctor's, and that's a whole different story. But I am so proud of you. You always had, as a young child, you had a very strong personality. You had a force of your own, and I love it that you put it to work for your femininity. There is nothing more important than that, I think. So thank you.
And I'm gonna go say teacher Delilah.
That's what we were talking about.
Teacher Delilah, never Delilah.
Yeah, teacher Delilah. So it is so funny because like I always wondered, I'm like, how was I when I was a child? Was I was I like this? And what better person than like you sharing this, because you saw me as a, what was it, 4 years old? 4 or 5?
Yes. I did, and you were. I mean, and you were very firm. Once you said no, or once you felt that things had to be done a certain way, you did not budge in, and you were like that even with your sister. You would just tell her, "No, Jenny, that's not going to happen." So I love it. What a privilege for me to hear you, to see you, to experience you this way. I am just so thankful.
No, and I'm thankful for you too. Like I feel like a lot of the times we are shaped, like it takes a village to be where we're at, to be who we are. We can't do things alone. And I think that's why, like, having spaces where we're supporting each other, where we're uplifting each other, when we're talking about topics that may be taboo, or maybe like, oh, we can't talk about this. I think it's so important that we do, because that's how, like, we're encouraging each other to be our truest selves.
You touched on.
Sure, go ahead.
You touched on a point earlier, Jenny, that with the patriarchy, and I don't know at least I see it with a lot of the women that I'm surrounded by, we have to worry, or we do end up worrying about how we're dressed a lot more than men. Men don't have to worry about that. Women, we have to worry about whether what we're wearing is too revealing, whether it's not revealing enough. There's never a perfect dress. And that's just one of those barriers that us women have to face because we're criticized, or we're criticized for what we wear. And you don't think about dress as a barrier, but it is one of those.
I definitely agree with that. Just being at the office, and then if you want to go do other things, like, you have to bring more clothes with you, because what you're wearing at the office is not what you're going to wear outside the office per se. And then it's just sad that, yeah, you have to worry about those types of things because of how you're going to be looked at.
You have to have multiple wardrobes.
Yeah, cover everything up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that sometimes it is a choice we make, whether it is conscious or unconscious. And of course, I'm going to defer to Jenny to expand on that. But I think that we give people the permission to judge us one way or another. And you ladies know how I feel about my heels and tight dresses. And this Saturday, I showed a picture where I wore a very, very low-cut outfit that I've never done before. But, you know, I had to talk myself into it. It's not that anyone was there to tell me, but we accept all these impositions on us, and then we make them a rule that we live by. And I wonder if you and your experience, Jenny, feel more liberated from those judgments, or what's your struggle and how you come to the point where you said, what the heck, it's me, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I feel desde chiquita I have been fighting. Like, I have been like, I am not going to stay quiet, like, against my parents, against my family. Like, I would wear low cut outfits, not for the attention, but es porque me da la gana. Like, ustedes no me van a decir lo que tengo que hacer, like, yo lo voy a hacer. So there was something within me that was always like, no. I was always questioning, like, why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me I shouldn't be wearing something low cut? Now, like, as a 37-year-old woman,
oh my gosh.
you know, yeah. So many years have passed. Like, I feel like even more, you know, like, if one day I have a child, like, I have a nephew, he's 4 years old, and he has seen me practice, like, more choreography. I wear my fishnets, you know, and I'm not afraid to show him that side of me, because, like, he needs to know, like, as a child, like, Nina, I'm his godmother, Nina does this, Nina dances, and, you know, and he's just, you know, like, I feel like we as adults, like, and what has been passed down to us, like, ha sido, te tienes que tapar, tienes que, you know, no puedes andar enseñando, que van a andar pensando de ti, like, you know, and el que dirán, siempre el que dirán. Right. And to me ha sido, like, people are going to talk anyways. Like, if I feel comfortable, I'm going to feel comfortable. And I actually feel like when I do photo shoots, I feel more comfortable in lingerie and, like, being that way than, like, covered up in a professional suit. I feel so, like robotic. Like, it feels so awkward.
You saying that, Jenny, is goals to me. I want to get to that point.
I was going to ask that, like, what steps do we have to take to get there?
We're all about self-love and self-compassion here, but there's a few steps I need to get to that.
I'm there. Yeah, I agree. Help us.
So the easiest thing is don't give a fuck.
Oh, okay, all right. I like that. I like that attitude.
I feel that you have to step out of that comfort zone. Like, I was just asked just recently by a friend, like, hey, I need to go. Can you take me shopping to find some sexy clothing? And I was like, yes. And then I was like, this is, like, amazing, you know, because sometimes we have been disconnected, and I can also say I have disconnected, and I've never there's been maybe breaks in my time where I'm like, I kind of steered away from that because of, like, my situation, but I always came back to, like, my power, because I feel like there's power in owning like all of us and loving all of us, like, because then I think it's tied down not just to like what will people say, but like how I feel in my own body. Sometimes we may not accept our body, and which is why, there's a struggle within.
Well, my daughters are great teachers for me. I never knew of this concept until they started pointing it out to me. Body shaming. It's not okay to do it to yourself, nor to do it to others. And I have been guilty of that. I definitely, and I didn't understand the concept. It really took some thinking and some self-examining to come to terms with what that means, how it plays out, and the damage that it does to oneself and to others. I mean, why do we have to all aim at looking in a certain way? Why can't we, like you said, be comfortable in our own skin, be happy with the body that we have, work with what we have, and be sexy for ourselves? It's not to show someone else. It's not an inciting proposition. It really is a feeling. It's something that emanates from within, right?
Yep.
I think part of what we do, or an important piece of this, is the culture you set up within, well, the way that you talk to yourself, and then also your friends. If you're body shaming yourself, it is fantastic if you set up the standards that, no, you cannot talk to my friend like that. You cannot talk to my Delila like that, because my Delila is perfect.
Yeah.
And keeping each other accountable in the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we talk about others, I think is important.
And it is in the small things and it's in the big things, right? I mean, I have the bad habit of calling myself Dom or Ding Dong, and I have a really good friend that stops me in my track, and she's actually listening. Sylvia is always my conscience, and she says, no, that's not okay to say about you. How else can you express it? What else can you say? But we have those bad habits. And Jenny, you as a person that works with people and works on self-esteem, how do you guide others? What's the recipe for us to start making that change, to make a turn into a better direction for ourselves?
I think it was touched, like we have to be our own friend. A lot of the times, we're uplifting others. We're putting our energy onto other people, when sometimes we need to start with us, ourselves first, and focus on us. Like, I feel like every single day that I wake up, I'm like, how can I love my body more? How can I take care of me more? And so a lot of the times, and it's not just like our outer, like, appearance, it's like our inner. How is our body feeling today? Like, did I give it enough water? Did I I feel like our bodies are like plantitas. Like, we need to talk, like, if we have to talk to our body like plantita, like give it love, talk to it, nurture it, give it some sun, give it some water, nourish it. So I feel like that's kind of like how we start with ourselves. And
what do you do? Do you do affirmations every day? I recently started a gratitude journal to help me get on this road. Exercise releases endorphins. I know you dance. Is your, like, for you, it's dance. I mean, was it always easy for you? Or are you always just, I don't give a...
Yeah, well, dance, I think, okay, so one thing is, dance has been my therapy in loving myself. Like, I feel like dance has, you don't have to speak, you just feel, you just dance, you just allow yourself to be with the music. So I feel like dancing gives a lot of confidence, like the movements, like you're able to achieve like different turns, and it prepares you when you have to pose. So that's how you take pictures, you're posing, you're giving yourself different ways of like feeling yourself, because I feel like it's like, and I think culturally, dance, one is ritual, it's also spiritual. Like there was, the dance is part of like connection to our spirituality, connection to ourselves, and how do we connect with another person? Hey, let's go dancing, let's get to know each other through dance. So like, dance is huge in that. So, and when you were asking, like, what do I do every day? I wake up I've been waking up every single day, and I go for a walk. I have to move. Like I feel like our bodies need to move. So like being able to move, I take a lot of dance classes. I take pole classes. I take salsa classes. You know, even though I teach dance, you know, I've danced folklorico. I'm always finding ways to like learn more about what I like. So I do things that I enjoy that feel pleasurable to me.
That's awesome.
And then we go into, you know.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned about dance. We had as a guest Raven Armijo, who is a folklorista, some time ago, and I do some work with her. And
she danced it with Grandeza Mexicana.
Yes, she did.
I danced with Grandeza Mexicana.
Okay, cool. So you know her.
I know of her. She left a little bit earlier, but I know she's amazing.
She is. I love Raven. So she's working towards going back to school and working on her doctorate, and she's looking at dance not just as a way of having fun, but she's looking at it as a way of transferring culture, transferring power. And I think it speaks to what you said. You know, we move, and with that, there is a lot that comes, right? There is history that comes, and there are some movements that the Western culture has oppressed on us, right? No, you can't move like that, or you can't dance like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a freedom in just letting the music follow the rhythm of your body, or your body following the rhythm of what you hear, right? And liberating yourself. And I love that word. I think that's where I'm stuck right now. I'm thinking a lot about liberation in emotional and physical and mental ways, because I think that as women are oppressed and accept that oppression in so many different ways that we're not even aware of.
100% oppression. And, you know, so I'm going to go into a little bit like the way you just shared kind of brought something up to me. So when I was an intern for my MSW program, I did a whole like folklorico dance at the juvenile facility. Like I taught folklorico to incarcerated youth. And we did a whole, like I did my whole capstone and my whole thesis was on dance and the benefits and the importance of dance, folklorico in this way. But I feel like there's so much that is created with movement that sometimes we don't even pay attention. We're like, oh, we're just gonna go dance. But like you're building community, you're building, you know, like you're learning about different cultures. So like if you go to different like countries and you start taking classes, like I went to Cuba just to take salsa class. Like I was like, I want to learn how to dance, like how the Cubans dance, how Puerto Rico, Mexico, you know, like different places. And so like I feel like dance is a form of therapy. Like that is, to me, that is, and I always say what saves me in many ways.
Therapy and liberation, I see.
Yeah. Is there
I need to be liberated.
For real. Is there like a point where you were like, yeah, I'm gonna pursue this this Latin burlesque. I'm gonna pursue this all the way. Like, was there like and there couldn't be, but was there something that struck you and you're like, yeah, this is my decision?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I was okay. So I was 30 years old. So I was like 7 years ago. I was in a very, very toxic relationship. And I feel like I learned and I grew up so much from it. And I was also dancing folklorico. And I feel like that relationship had, taken a lot for me of who I was, my spirit, my light. And so we had to perform for Lila Downs. And there's this song called Cuando Me Tocas Tú, an amazing song. You should listen to it. And that's kind of what I do for like my warm-ups. When I that's the song I put.
We're noting that down, right, ladies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cuando Me Tocas is so amazing. And so to me, that's such a sensual song. And so when the director was like, okay, you're going to be dancing to this and you all are going to, like, you have to impersonate like you were in a brothel in Mexico, like back in the day. And I was like, how am I going to do that? Like, I don't even know how to walk properly, right? Like, and then when all of us started walking and imitating and trying to impersonate, he was like, ustedes no saben. Like, yo lo puedo hacer mejor que ustedes. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm supposedly feminine, right? So that's when I started taking classes. Like, I started taking burlesque chair classes. And I remember doing that first hair whip and the first movement, and I was like, de aquí soy yo. Like, this is me. Like,
that was your liberation?
Yeah, I was like, just one hair flip. I just needed one hair flip, and I was like, whoa. And so I started taking classes to be able to one perform because I needed to perform, and and so when I started taking the classes, and I remember seeing the folklorico dancers. Whenever I would see the folklorico dancers, I would be like, that woman looks like she's having an orgasm on stage. I need to look like her. So like, see, that's how we're tying the sexualidad. You know, a lot of the times, like, we disconnect, like, no, you can't be sexual, like, no, you can't feel pleasure, like, dancing is orgasmic, like, that's how I see it. Like, I feel like it's so pleasurable. And so I was like, I want to look like them. And so that's how it started. You know, I started taking classes, and when I did the transition from folklorico to Latin burlesque, well, to burlesque, I did that transition. I also ended that relationship, and I feel like, you know, ending that relationship and the new doors were opening, you know, like, and then I started performing, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna own my body, and if I want to show a little bit of me, I'm gonna do it, which I did. And then I was like, okay, I feel good now. Let me start, you know, shifting it in different ways. And so, like, many women that started coming to my classes, like, I've had from 70-year-olds to like 18, 19-year-olds that come, so like all across the board. And I started seeing, you know, like, a shift within myself as well. So like, as I'm teaching and as I'm, you know, going through this process, I'm also healing me, you know, so it also was a healing for me.
This is such a great story. This is great. Thank you for sharing that story. It was really great to hear.
Thank you. And so, yeah, so like, that's where I feel like 30 at my 30s. And so a lot of times when we're young, we're in our 20s, like, we're like, oh, we're gonna be adults and we're gonna have it all together, and like, that's where we're the most unstable.
Yeah, and that's like, you think you have it together, but you don't. And I guess I don't know if I'm like going off kilt here, but like, did you have any battles with your faith in pursuing sexual, you know, just being out there sexually? Like,
Say it, Steph. Sexuality. Sensualidad.
You do have to start there. You have to be able to say it, right?
I'll say it like to my friends. I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like the most vulgar person like ever if you're in front of me and I know you. But yeah, this is where
But
I don't
that
know.
topic is different.
It is.
Yeah. It's a different, you know.
It comes loaded. That's why, you know, right? You're like, ooh, there's a lot behind it. Faith.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. So faith, I believe I am a spiritual person, and I feel like, you know, as I've grown older, like, I've learned to touch more into like indigenous spirituality, and learning from, you know, kind of like the ways prior to colonization.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, and I think my friends here, we did a class together, Sulema, and I said, sexualidad is spirituality. Like, you know, it is, you know, sensualidad is spirituality.
Yeah.
It's like your connection to like your essence, like, with another person. Like, it's so sacred. And so I feel like a lot of the times, like, we've been taught that we shouldn't accept that like, it's bad. You shouldn't touch yourself. You shouldn't talk about touching yourself. And, you know, like, that's something that I've had to, you know, like, also, like, there's been struggles, you know, there has been struggles, because I grew up in a family that my parents and teacher Dalila knows, like, my mom and my dad, like, super, like, religiosos, y que van a la iglesia cada semana, y que, like, católicos, and like, oh, my dad would say, yeah.
We're all doing the sign of the cross. I don't know if everybody else did that. We were all doing it at the same time.
And some of us will go to confession after this, right?
Yeah, I'll see you guys there.
No, but it is something to be considered in our lives, right? I just came out of a master's in theology, Jenny, and my faith is intact. But the more you study, the more you learn, the more you come to realize that the institution is what is not good. It's not faith itself. You know, you're being in tune with God or a higher power or looking for your inner strength and strengthening it with faith. There's nothing wrong with that. But what is wrong is all this desire to oppress and impose rules on women to control us. It's almost like robbing us of our intelligence, our emotional intelligence, our fruitful intelligence, our community intelligence, by putting all these rules on so much that it just doesn't make sense. But it does stop us from living our life and from being the best version of ourselves.
Yes, I agree. I feel, is anybody wanting to share anything?
Who's spying on us?
Se quieren meter.
I know. See? They're trying to scare us.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of what you said, you know, like the more you learn, the more like you learn about different types of spirituality. You understand the institutions are what also has controlled, you know, women, you know, like it's a way of controlling women. It's a way of, you know, like disconnecting ourselves from like that passion, that pleasure that we can walk around in. And then we talk about, you know, like then if we go into like, you know, the traumas that we've experienced, you know, and not just in our lifetime, but also like what our moms and what our abuelitas.
Generational.
Yes. And so it gets passed down, and we also carry that without even knowing it. And so like I think like it's yeah, across the board it's something. So like when we talk about faith, like yeah, I also feel like I've been very strong in who I am, and you know, like I am a spiritual person. And you know, like I feel like I'm spiritual in different ways, right? And it may not be kind of what my parents thought I was gonna be, and I still feel like and I tell my parents like I could sit in ceremony for like overnight. I could be praying overnight in ceremony, but I can't it's hard for me to be in church for 1 hour because I feel like I'm not getting anything. Like I'm not getting no me nutre, and so I'm like I have to understand like that is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, I could be in meditation for 30-40 minutes in silence, and like that is spirituality. That's also spirituality. That is connection to a higher source and myself. So yeah, so I feel like it's very, you know, like I've been able to learn and accept and love that and love each other for that, you know, because we could all have different ways of viewing, you know. But yes, but in relation to Latin burlesque, yeah, I feel like sex is sacred, sex is spiritual.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's really cool that you put that connection and how you just like really made it your own, and yeah, and are normalizing it now.
Just out of curiosity, have you read The Myths of Avalon?
No.
Okay. I do think that all women should read it. It's a very thick book, a Bible thick, so to speak, but it's of the women in the time of King Arthur. And one of the things that it does is it really explains sexuality and brings it forth as the ritual of life, the ritual of connection. I mean, besides that, the book is just absolutely gorgeous in terms of the scenery, the nature that it presents. But at the core of it is the power or the empowerment of women. And at least that's how I read it. That's how I walked away from it. And I bought so many copies of art, and I don't have any of them because I keep giving them to other women. But I agree, and there isn't enough literature. There isn't enough. There aren't enough spaces where we can come in and have this conversation. You know, if we're going to talk about sex, you know, we have to. It's not out front. I mean, the same way that we talk about food or any other function of the body. And Jenny was in a classroom where we called our body parts by the name that they're called. So we never went around, you know, oh, you need to clean your pajarito. No. You have a penis, and that's what you see through. That's what you urinate through. You know, the moms used to be, hi, you know, and we would tell them you empower, you even protect our children and protect yourself when you call the body parts the name that they are. When you go to the doctor, you don't say, "Oh, I don't know, my tentacles." You call them fingers and hands. So the same should apply to every part of your body, but it starts there, right? It starts with the simple things and then moves on and escalates into bigger things. And if we want to preserve, for those who want to preserve marriage and fight so much for it, I think that we need to give women the spaces and the places where we can be ourselves, where we don't have all these ties and all these chains that, keep holding us back. We need to be able to be comfortable, explore, live. And it doesn't mean that we have to have a sex conversation every 5 minutes. It doesn't mean that we have to sit in front of pornography. It doesn't mean that, we have to use language that is offensive to some and others are comfortable. It means whatever it means to each person, but respectfully and embracing who we are. So I was so looking forward to having you over because I think that we do need to bring these conversations to light. And we need to be able to do it as we're doing it right now. I mean, we're so intergenerational right now. I'm the minority. I'm okay with that.
See, but that's beautiful. That's beautiful because you're also, you're an elder to us. Like I feel like you as a 4-year-old, I looked up to you. Like I respected you so much as a child, like, so like that's how much like love you gave to us to then continue. And I think it is important that we're having these conversations with, with all ages, like I feel like with my mom struggled a lot for what I did. So like if, did I have a backlash? Yeah, my mom was like, te ves bien vulgar. And I'm like, what the
fuck? Did she bust out the holy water?
Oh yeah, practically. Like she was like, no puedo creerlo. Like, like, Jenny, pero ¿por qué haces eso? I'm like, mom, like you don't know. Like, and I could have been like, you know what, I'm gonna stop. I could stop right here and like, you know what, yeah, I'm a little afraid because like, yeah, stepping into my complete power could be scary because you're like, how are people gonna perceive me? And then in my own family, they were just like, what are you doing? And then even my dad, like I make them uncomfortable. So we're sitting down and I'm like, yeah, I get paid to talk about sex. Like, yep, I do. Esta lengua le pagamos para hablar de sexo.
Oh man,
that's awesome.
I wish that I was that open. I mean, I think that my girls see me a little bit more conservative than that, my daughters. But I think that they're also stepping into their own womanhood and they have to find their own bearings. But I'm not uncomfortable talking about anything. Sometimes I'm uncomfortable with certain descriptions or certain scenes because they're unfamiliar. And so on my end, what we need is patience from those of you who are more comfortable with the things that I'm not comfortable. But I think it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
It's not leaning on one side more than the other. But I love my girls. One of my girls would tell my husband, because there is the only man here with 4 girls in the house, when she would be on her period, to say, "Yep, I need someone to go buy me things." And my husband would cover his ears, and then she would say, "Oh, you don't want to know that I'm bleeding? I do that every month."
And that's true. Like there's a lot of households that do not say anything about periods or pads or tampons or bleed and nothing. You just don't talk about it. Change the channel when those commercials come on. Yeah.
And in cultures like indigenous cultures, like when a woman is bleeding, like it's a time of like reflection. Like you like are a lot more open, and like you receive a lot more messages where you journal. Like the women would like rest and like being cared for. And I feel like a lot of the times, like even in this society, like you're bleeding, you have to continue to do 100 things that you've been doing, and like that's where we once again we go into like how are we caring for ourselves? How are others caring for ourselves? Because as women and as bleeders, right, we're bleeding. We are giving life and not just life. We're giving life in projects and like ideas and creating cafecito con. Like
it could be seen as a cleansing process, right?
Yeah,
and it has to be. This is the other thing that I would tell my daughters. Having your period is a blessing. It gives you the option of having children in the future, procreating. It's not a curse. Even in the language that we use, right? How we describe the functions of our own body. Sometimes they're so negative, and I would tell them, no, it's a blessing. And no, it's not a justification for you to be mean or to be hurtful. No, it's not an excuse for you to lash out on others. If you're uncomfortable, if you're in pain, we can take care of that. But being on your period is not a pass so that you can insult everyone else. And so all of those perceptions come into play in terms of our very own human being, right? Our own womanhood and how we present ourselves and how we come forth with that strength that God has given us as women. We are just as good, and if we all are created in the image of God, we're not any less. There isn't any curse on us that isn't on our counterpart, right? We're all beautiful human beings capable of loving and living and contributing. And I think that that's what we call out in this show. We're called out to contribute, but we ask our guests to also contribute with the gifts that you have, because there's just so many wonderful women out there. Rosa and I were at an event this past weekend on Saturday night. I left a little early, but I left so filled with love and hope and feeling good. And that's what we should do, right? That's what we should bring to the table, wherever we are, wherever we go. So how do you go into new spaces, Jenny, given that, you have this beautiful way. I love it. Your lengua is what feeds them, right?
That could be taken in so many ways, and I still love it.
Would you consider that lengua part of your power, part of the way that you're able to influence others?
Yeah, I feel like that's been a gift. In the beginning, well, when I was younger, I felt like it wasn't accepted, by my family, because I was, rattling a lot of things. That now I'm like, yep, that was just being me. Like I was just like stepping into my power. But like sometimes it's hard, when people have been a certain way. But yes, I feel like being a social worker, being a therapist, I'm always using my lengua. Like I supervise MSW students too, like, and I'm always like, passing on the knowledge. So I feel like culturally, like we're storytellers. Like our culture is part of it. Like that's how we pass on information and wisdom. And so I feel like being able to have our voice, like it's so important, and to be able to speak. Sometimes, like, yeah, it may come a little bit easier, but I feel like I was shy when I was growing up in sometimes. And so dance was my way of expression.
I'm curious because your power here, I can see how dancing and being a social worker complement each other. What would you consider is your purpose, if you can summarize it in a sentence?
My purpose is of helping people be their truest selves. That's my purpose.
Yep, I see it.
I like it. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. And just so that you know, we want to take a burlesque class with you now.
I was going to say...
I'm probably going to be the shyest one. I'm just letting you know already.
We'll give you a few shots. We'll give you a few shots, and we'll get started on our way.
So I think that is beautiful. Like when I hear that, like that tells me that like I have to make the space and make the experience as pleasant and as caring for you, or for whoever comes in that feels the same way. Like that's my job. I tell them, like, if you come in nervous or you're shy or you're afraid, like if at the end you still feel the same, then I didn't do my job, because that's my job, to be able to hold space for you, to be vulnerable enough to kind of reconnect with yourself and to embrace yourself in a different way. So that's kind of like what my what I do to take care of whoever comes into any of my classes.
Wow, that's awesome. That makes it feel comfortable already.
We have a question from our audience, and I think it's a really good question. I'm gonna put it out there for you to think about it, Jenny. It says, how do you align sexuality with young women who identify with they, we, or bisexual or gay? Is there a difference?
How do I identify?
How do you align sexuality with people who are not within the norm, right? That she, he, that are in those in between areas. I don't want to call them gray areas because I know that one of my kids will come and whack me on the head for saying that.
Non-binary.
In between, non-binary. There you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think sexualidad is so diverse. You know, like you can't we can't put a he she to it, or like anything. It's that's why like it's sexualidad. It doesn't have like, you know, like to be sexual. I feel like it's
not
so
feminine or masculine.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't have either. It's just like one word.
Yeah. So like I feel like men, you know, we've been taught in this you know, culture like that we live in here in the United States, that there is like he she, but like in indigenous cultures, like they didn't have that. Like, you know, like there was like and even in the language there was no like definition of he she. And so I feel like that's what, as people that have been colonized, you know, we're kind of also decolonizing that. And by even having these conversations of being able to be like, okay, well, how would you align with it, right? Like even having those conversations are so important. So I feel like it's going like being able to inform ourselves, but like to me, like my classes, it's been predominantly women that have been coming, right? You know, like, but it's open to whoever wants to learn how to like be in touch with their own body. So like our my experience may be very different from someone else's experience, and it's still as beautiful and it's still as important.
Love it. Love it. And again, you know, like I said, I work in progress. I'm learning. There's a lot of, for women my age, there's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen before we learn. And I think that is the thing to envy of the younger generation, that there is hopefully less unlearning to do. Not that it's any easier, but there is hopefully less unlearning to do so that they can come into these spaces and be more human to other humans.
I love that.
Yeah.
To be human.
Well said.
No. Wow.
Here's an idea. Here is a thought, Jenny. Or I don't know if you already have this class, but your girl is engaged, going to get married soon. When? I don't know, because there's a lot to plan. But so I'm going on this journey of getting married, becoming one with someone else. And I see burlesque classes or this self-empowerment dance classes as a way of, that's a great stepping stone to, you need to be fully comfortable with who you are before being one with someone else. So if you want to pitch a new kind of class to people that are gonna get married soon,
I like that idea. I like that.
Just the thought. You have your first client here.
Oh, thank you. No, I've done private classes because, you know, like sometimes women are like, I want to just do it with my girls. I'm like, okay, perfect. Just let me know. I've done like classes for birthdays. I've done classes for, you know, despedidas de soltera. Like I've done classes. Yeah, just like, you know, I'm breaking up with my boyfriend. I'm coming to your. I just broke up with someone. I'm coming to your class. Like I want to like find myself, or like I'm gonna get married and I want to like be able to know a little bit more about myself. So yeah, like it is open to everything and anything.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Things, you know, most people say that when you get married, that you have to talk about money. That's the uncomfortable thing. I think that the two things that really need to be talked about, one is sex, and then
Yes.
the other one is food. And we never talk about those things. Because, you know, you're bringing two worlds of food and life
Food.
together.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
okay.
very important.
That's true.
And I used to teach cooking classes to couples, and I would tell them, you know, no, you're not going to come to my space. I need to go to your space, see what you have. How do you negotiate what pan you use for what? You'd be surprised how many women, you know, get upset because things are not used the way that their husband or their partner expects them, or because they're being measured up to their partner's moms or sisters or whatever. You create in a whole new world. There's no rules that apply. This is something that you're building together. It's part of the intimacy.
That sounds like
So,
another
yeah.
class that needs to be started, Rosa.
Yeah.
A food class.
Oh man.
She's like, I'm taking notes. I'm
Yeah,
taking notes.
that's what she looks like. She's like, okay, food retreat.
I'm concerned.
Burlesque
I'm not the
retreat.
cook here. Burlesque, I'm on it. Burlesque, I'm on it. I don't know about the cooking.
Well, it's about trade-offs, right? So, you know, compromise.
trade-offs.
Compromise.
Yeah. I'll bring one thing, you bring the other.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh, yay. My goodness, what a fun show.
Yeah, I mean,
What time it is, Rosa?
I know.
I'm sad. We're gonna have to like do a part 2 or something.
What?
After we've taken some classes.
I was gonna say maybe we take that class there.
And then we have the part 2. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, I've had a conversation. Like I did a podcast. First, I did a private, and we did a whole class, and then they came back and like kind of narrated what their experience was within like taking the class. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. I feel like, you know, like I there's a light that comes out after a class. Like there's, and that's how I know. I'm like, yep, I see the light. Like it's a complete shift, and it's an honor for me to be able to share this, to be able to share space, because I think it's important, like that we are, you know, I always think about like we're creating a community, we're creating, do I call it sisterhood? I don't call it sisterhood, but it is like we're creating community, and we're like taking care of each other, and we're in such a vulnerable space. Like everybody's uplifting, like no, like because a lot of the times like it's all about competition, like pues está mejor que yo y mira eso y es y always siempre like, and not on my watch.
Empowering each other.
Yes. So we learned about you gotta be comfortable with yourself. What liberation was a good word today, right?
Letting go.
Letting go. Do we have a?
Being able to say sexuality.
Oh yeah, I gotta practice that. I'm gonna practice that in my room. That might be my homework.
Say it 10 times very loud. Jenny, I'm personally very interested. Where can our audience and future audience members follow you? Where can we take classes? Where can we find all of this information so that we can empower ourselves?
Yes, where I'm most active is on my Latin Burlesque IG. So it is Jenny. No, not Jenny. It's Latin _ burlesque. And that's where, yeah, pretty much like I get DMs or I post up, like I've had women turn on their notifications so that they know when I'm posting. Like usually I post up in my on Instagram, like when my next class is, like I just I'm having 2 classes, but they're already sold out. Naughty or Nice, so it's like Christmas theme.
Nice.
So we're doing that in 2 weeks, but I am planning on doing something for January, maybe online, because I have done some online classes, and then for sure, if all is well, in February I'll be doing like a Galentine's theme event.
Cool. Looking forward to sliding into those DMs.
Yeah, just slide into my DMs.
Looking forward to a bachelorette.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that weddings are expensive. You don't have to invite me to your wedding, but please invite me to your bachelorette.
Let me plan it first. Let me. At this rate, I'll be married in 5 years.
No.
You've got a village behind you. We'll help you out.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
We got you. We got you.
About me having babies, we got married, and for me, having a child was like the goal of life, right? So we get married, and I tell him, so can we get pregnant? And he's like, no, I'm not ready. And, every time I ask, he's like, I'm not ready. I was like, what do you need? Do you need a book, a class? Do you need someone to tell you? You need to read outside? What is it going to be? And he would tell me, no, I'll just know when I'm ready. I had to wait 2 years, and that was, to me, torture because I really wanted to be a mom. So my point in saying that is there's some things that you don't have to be ready for. You just have to take a leap of faith because that's what you want to do. And then you'll discover because it's a journey. It's not like if you get to that point, then something happens. You get to that point, then life still continues. So
True.
yeah.
Do we have a quote to send everybody off with? We've hit the 1 o'clock mark. So
Yes.
The 1 hour. Yeah.
thank you so much.
So to me, a quote that is so, so important is amar tu cuerpo es un acto de resistencia. Loving your body is an act of resistance.
I love that.
That's very
Love
powerful.
that. That's a great way of finishing our show. Thank you very much. Cafecito Con is a production of 3 intergenerational women who hope to bring you conversations with women for women. You can listen live every other Thursday at noon by connecting with us via Clubhouse, the phone app. You can download the app and look for us by our name, Cafecito Con. You can follow Cafecito Con to get alerts of our upcoming shows. You can listen to previous shows by visiting the Facebook page, and that is at 2 Cafecito Con, number 2 Cafecito Con, and click on the watch video button on the top right hand side of the page. Or you can follow us on Instagram at 2 Cafecito Con. We look forward to bringing you more exciting and great conversations like this one, and we look forward to having Jenny again, and thank you so very much for saying yes.
Oh, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great meeting
To
you.
our listeners, right?
Yes, thank you to the listeners.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. This has been one of my favorite shows, especially seeing Stephanie squirm. And thank you to our audience members today. I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their day.
Have a safe day, guys.